Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 12 of the build guide 2. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I had a really fun time last episode putting together this tiered green city suburb, and you guys really enjoyed it as well. So again, thank you for all the continual sort of comments and ideas and support. Just crazy. Continues to just blow me away every week. Never ever thought we'd be hitting these sorts of numbers on the channel, but welcome to everyone that is following the build guide. It's so nice to have you all along. And in today's episode, we was going to start building out here. I had some plans for this area. We want to do some European suburbia out this way and start bringing some more bridges across, a little tram bridge as well perhaps. Some very cute ideas. However, the city says no. The city has an enormous industrial spike that we need to address. I don't usually pay attention too much to these demands, but when it's this high, we do need to build some industry. So, I think it was last episode, wasn't it? I asked you guys, or the episode before maybe, what you wanted out in these pretty featureless sort of landscapes here. It's just very flat plains, which is fine. We can do something with this. And I think what we will do is going to be kind of a larger farmland here. You know, we've kind of got our farming facility here that's kind of dedicated more towards research purposes, tied into the agricultural college next door to it. But this time I want kind of a widespread sort of functioning traditional farm, if you like. So we've got some fertile land, some orientation to play with against our highway networks, and indeed some vibes to bring out over here too. Probably will end up switching this out for European suburbia stuff as well. Just don't really want the vanilla housing out here, not the vibe I'm after really. But either way, let's build some authentic farmland in City Skylines, shall we? So just looking at getting the build started here today, we're playing with this 6-lane median with the grass in the middle, which is a nice road. I do like this one, but it's a little bit too, I guess, dense for what I want here, I think. So I think we're going to come down to a 4-lane with cycle road instead after the point where we exit the industry. I'm going to go with cycling through here because I don't really want to bring any sort of significant public transport down this way. So I think having sort of a form of cycling as almost as a public transport substitute should hopefully help with traffic a little later down the line, because I don't really want metro out here, etc. Right? Cool. So let's start bringing this arterial down. Of course, this fed our town previously, and I can almost certainly see an opportunity where we want to develop another service interchange here. Right, it's kind of screaming out for it, isn't it? There's a couple of designs we could do here. It's a little bit tight against that tile boundary, and we don't have another tile yet, do we? No, we need to hit the next milestone first. But of course we will eventually pop 81 tiles, so it won't be an issue forever, but it's fine anyway. So first of all, I'd like to get the farm area established, and I think a dirt road is going to be most helpful here. So let's go for about here for right now. So I want to see if we can get a little bit of residential in and amongst the farmland as well, almost as there is some more sort of rural, quieter towns out in and amongst the fields. And before you start getting into the sort of metropolitan area of Orchid Bay and it becomes a lot more sort of dense over here, right? So we'll see if we can factor that into the build as well today. So of course we want farming. Let's go ahead and chuck ourselves down a farm main building, and we're going to name this after one of our wonderful Patreon subscribers. We're going to go for Francis Farms, after our wonderful and long-standing Patreon subscriber Rich. Appreciate all your support, buddy. Thank you for everything you do for our community. You are a real secret blend of herbs and spices. Cool. So really with the farm area here, I want to make sure that we're positioning assets and designs to complement the networks around us, right, as always. So let's hit a road guideline here against this highway, because I know that for this particular farm, I would love to have sort of fields wrapped up against the highway, because it's going to give us a very kind of cool aesthetic, okay? So of course we want to place these over fertile land, make sure you do actually have the natural resource if you're setting up an industrial area. Of course forestry can be painted if you don't have it there naturally. And then let's start. So first, we've already made a level 5 farm, which is really helpful that we don't have to wait for things to level up now, so that's really handy. Okay, and first of all, I want large crop field. Let's decide on which one we want. I think corn. Does Orchid Bay seem like the type of town that would be a corn town? Some Nebraska vibes, perhaps? Or maybe some potatoes for our Irish friends. I do like the potato farms here. I think we'll go for some potatoes. Let's go for that. So we can just measure the distance here, right? We can see we're at a distance of 360, so we want to measure that back down this way if we can. Let's say it's going to be about there, I think. There we go. And then that back-to-back field now is very much the vibe that I'd like to generate out here, because as our Sims, or highway traffic now starts to drive past this area, they're going to be driving past fields, which at least in the UK is a very sort of popular accompanying sort of aesthetic to a highway side farm, right? At least in the UK anyway. So now that we've got these established, we can now start basically structuring the farm off of these. Let's go for another couple of fields as well. Let's go for one here and then one here. So we're not going to do this for the whole farm. It's really, I just want to generate that aesthetic of lots of fields. And at least with the large fields, we're going to keep them the same. But once we come into some more smaller designs over this side, we'll start doing some different things with them. So let's bring this to a close now. All right, we'll bring water over in a second. Don't worry too much about that. We've got a little bit more fertile land here as well, haven't we? So let's see if we can start switching up our design now. Why don't we switch back down to a small crop field? And let's say we'll have that there. And then I think we'll start separating these out with some dirt pathways now, because if we can create little spots of walkability between the fields, it's going to make it seem a lot more authentic and natural, if you like. So let's start doing this. Bring across some classic dirt road pathway. And then do we get any sort of dramatically different aesthetics changing these up? Coming to wheat perhaps. Wheat's quite a nice one, isn't it? Okay, so we'll have wheat. And then we'll place another one next door, and then let's change this one. Let's go for some corn. I don't think I hate that. And again, we'll leave one more space for a pathway, and then we'll bring this one down. Same thing again over here. And maybe we can squeeze in like a little maintenance building here or something, little workers' barracks perhaps to accompany the fields. And then why don't we go back to wheat here? Okay, and we can almost start creating like a little sense of patchwork, right? Which is quite a popular thing you see in farms. So I think we can already start getting on board with it, can't we? Cool, I think I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead and give them some water so we can start seeing things flow around. Okay, so I'm happy with the way this is developing so far. We're starting to develop that sort of grander scale of farm, aren't we? Let's continue to piece together some more of our farming patterns, because we've got a little bit more fertile land here before it starts to run out, and then a little bit more to the north and the south of the fields as well. So, let's see what we can do here. We could... Yeah, it's going to create walkability there, isn't it? Okay. Really hoping we do get some people walking around here. That would be quite nice. I guess we'll see as the episode goes on though. But I definitely want to try this out of sort of like long, thin fields in a row next to each other. It looks like we've got a little bit more sort of wiggle room here against this boundary. So let's try this one. There we go. Let's go ahead and throw on some wheat here. Do we go for corn again maybe? Let's go for corn. Okay, and then just want to wrap this up now so it's totally inclusive. And again, I think that's the vibe we want, right? It kind of gives us that longer, more narrow field, which again is going to help add to our overall sort of farm complex and facility here, isn't it? You can really see those coming together now, starting to create that little bit of distance. So what I'd also love to respect as well is the view from the highway. Is the sight line to some sort of bit of infrastructure that's going to sit in here as part of the sort of farm area, if you like. So we are going to use dirt frames mostly for this. I'll probably upgrade something into a concrete road eventually, but not for right now. So we do have tiny little bit of fertile land there. We can definitely do something with that. So let's go ahead now and shut down a couple of fields. Hopefully they will still register. And I think if we make these both greenhouses, we're going to start to now see a little bit of building infrastructure within the build itself. And then why don't we partner it with another one? So I don't think I want animals here, so I want to try and stay away from milking parlours and slaughterhouses. I think I just want this to be crops and general farm space. Oh, and that's going to fit perfectly. Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed. So of course that's just going to be the flour mill. That's going to want crops and whatnot. I do like it, but again, I think its orientation could possibly be improved. So why don't we start bringing some frames around the backs of the greenhouses, and then we'll relocate this directly next door. Does that make us happier? Again, I just want to create that little sense of infrastructure and building on that corner right there. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I definitely don't hate it, right? It's already starting to look quite a wide little facility, isn't it? Definitely respecting sight lines from the highway. This is definitely the most important sight line here today, I think. Cool. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. And then let's go ahead and draw our little boundary behind that. And then this can probably become a tarmac road now. Why don't we go for some grass ones, I think. I feel like there's a lack of choice with sort of options for areas like this. I don't feel like dirt road isn't always appropriate, but some of the tarmac roads don't really match the vibe of a farm either. Maybe we're missing some roads that could possibly be added in the vanilla game. We need like a rural pack of roads, don't we? starting to come together now, isn't it? And hopefully now that should actually give us a little bit of illumination. By the way, guys, for those that are playing with Play It, I'm amazingly happy to announce that the function to right-click the sun and moon here is now back from Ultimate Eye Candy, which is the best thing. So if you're playing with Play It, you can right-click your dials now to change the time of day. Okay, yeah, but that's going to give us that little spot of light in and amongst all the fields during our nighttime view, isn't it? Which I'm definitely on board with. I can certainly come to appreciate that, I think. So we can see just by the volume of traffic starting to accumulate on this road now, because there's 2 industry areas down here that is starting to get busy, and once there's a suburb out here too, it's definitely going to choke at some point. So let's have a look at the interchange down here, and it looks like those damn corn thieves are back again. Hopefully a policeman will arrive at the farm shortly to stop them stealing the corn, but until then, it's a bit of a free-for-all. So let's just assess the position of this road here and see exactly what we want to happen with our interchange. So let's take out 2 sections of highway here. And then we'll start off with a road guideline between both of them. Now, the right side of the interchange here is probably going to be a little bit squashed until we can break this tile boundary. So do just bear with that, alright? This should be a sensible happening, I think. I think we'll be okay with that. So this is an interchange we built on the channel before. There is a video on the channel called 3 simple and easy service interchanges that are designed to help you piece together ideas like this. So it can be helpful if you're struggling for ways to get on and off the highway. And then I want to come down here, and then I want to tunnel under. Yes, and then we want to come straight under here. It's 420 to the road, and we can see where we're going to want to try and do that again. So let's come back up, match the guideline and come down, and then we'll hit that, and that should give us the configuration I'm after. We should have enough room to do that here. Repeat the same thing again for the other side. Cool, so there we have it. That should be okay for right now. Again, just do the little bit more room. I'll be tremendously happy, but we will make it work. And of course open up out the other side eventually as well. So now let's start bringing down our slip roads either side of the interchange here. So we're starting to frame those central highway roads. This interchange is a lot easier to configure if your highways are straight, so if you can help that, then it'll make it easier for you. But if not, just a little bit of freeform tool on the appropriate angle, you should be able to hook everything in. And then where we do have these slip roads coming off the exit here, at the 10 marker here, I'd just like to have another little slip lane that's coming on that angle right there. Let's go for about that one. That should be okay, and then we'll repeat that both sides. And then we can match that same 48 angle slip road back on. What you would normally do here is to mimic this exact setup on the other side, but of course the tile boundary is blocking me here. So once we come to do that, I will do that off camera, so prepare for that. But either way, this should give us at least a little slip system so we can just alleviate the pressure off of this one over here. Of course, we do want to make sure that this comes down here. There's no point actually carrying on the cycle infrastructure this way because, of course, they can't cycle on the motorways, so we might as well remove the cycling up until here, and then we can factor it into the rest of the suburb. Cool. We also want to remove our lights as well here and also do some dedicated turning lanes with some quick lane maths, so we'll do that while we're here. Let's go for our 6-lane road with median, why not? And then we'll have our 2 sections either side of the middle to have the 6-lane, so that gives us the dedicated turning lane for when they want to slip back onto the highway, of course. And let's make sure that we're facing the right direction here as well. And then, as always, just because it's vanilla, let's turn the lights off because 9 times out of 10, they tend to make things worse. But that will give us a very basic slip system. Again, the full video of how to build the proper thing here is on the channel if you want to go ahead and use it. It's quite effective and really easy to build, especially in vanilla. It's just going to keep people moving around. And of course, duplicate it the other side if you have the room, but right now I do not, so we'll have to bear with it. But look at that already, right? So much farm traffic already coming down this road. And all that's going to help to serve to do is alleviate the pressure. We'll also get some forestry trucks coming down here as well, because these guys want to sort of get over to this highway a bit quicker. So it's great, and of course we'll detail it during our time-lapse as well today. So let's return back to the farm now. You guys desperately need power, right? Let me give you some power. Hold on a second there. There we go. Tremendous. Cool. So it's just coming together so far. There we go, the crime has finally stopped. So now I'd like to have a look at filling some of the spaces where we don't have fertile land, but I still want it to be part of the general kind of farm facility. And I think a little sort of barn configuration is really perfect for this. So let's have our large barn here. Again, I kind of want it included within the aesthetic view of the field. So orientation and positioning within that square is important. And I think I'm happy with that, right? That gives us that field to barn aesthetic. That's what we're all here for, I think. And then let's go ahead and grab this. So a bit of farm fencing always goes tremendously well. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves some of that. Turn off all our snap-ins here. Tends to make a difference. And then we'll have it just run the duration of the frame. Ignore the enormous power pylons for right now. They, of course, only are temporary. Then a little curve here, and then we'll come back in. There's a couple of things here you can do to mimic crops. You can do little rows of bush from the vanilla game. You can do wild hedging from the content creator packs. It's a personal choice sort of thing, but you know, you can get the impression, right? Especially if you're playing with Propline tool, this will make your life dramatically easier. Also, as well, beware that you are placing trees near fertile land. Don't place them too close, because you will delete your fertile land if you do that, and you can't get it back in vanilla. You do need extra landscaping tools in order to do that. So we'll get this pattern completed, and then where we have the full effect, okay? So you can do rows of wild hedge to essentially create your own crop rows, which again, will just really expand that farm feel, and you can do these as often as you like, in as many different shapes and sizes and variations, because of course the vanilla fields, or at least the industry's DLC fields, are limited to sort of rectangles, right? We can't change the shape here. But with some custom farmland, we can. So you can be a little bit creative here. And of course that barn is going to function as crop storage, which our flour mill will be able to make use of as well. I can see we've got a little bit of space here as well, perhaps for a couple more maintenance buildings next to our flour mill. That's quite a happy accident there, isn't it? I'm really happy with that. I like that. But I can definitely see this pattern coming to fruition across a couple of different areas now, because just the aesthetic of surrounding the flour mill with false vanilla fields is something that I'm quite enjoying. And here is all the tractors in the world ready to come top that barn up. You ready? There we go. They can't wait. They just can't wait. So stupid. Please patch this, Colossal Order. This has been like this since Industries came out. It needs to be fixed. So stupid. But either way, they are coming in. You can see, right, that vanilla light is making things worse for us. Let's just turn it off. Goodbye. Also do the same thing over here again as well. Just let everyone flow. So you can see, you know, don't worry about this. It will calm down once this barn fills up. So we'll be right back once it has calmed down. Okay, so what we've also done here is applied a regular district, because what I'd like to give this one here is the European Suburbia default or district specialization or style, if you like. This is a content creator pack DLC. Definitely one of the better content creator packs, European Suburbia. Its housing is like much more aesthetically pleasing, especially in vanilla compared to some of the vanilla buildings. So definitely worth picking up in my opinion. But either way, what I would like to now start doing is, now we have kind of our farm frame established, right? We'll do some more farm detailings through here and doing our detail time-lapse, etc. But now I'd like to grab some sort of tarmac roads, right, and just start feeding in a connection off of these roads for a little bit of sort of surrounding farm suburbia to lie, really. That's really what I'm looking to create here. What I'm also interested in looking at as well is perhaps installing a little wind turbine installation as part of the farm, because we've actually got, funnily enough, a really high wind spot directly on this farm here. So I don't think we can particularly refuse the aesthetic of this. So I think we're going to go for 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll definitely segment these off. Let's give them their own building. Maybe the farm maintenance building might work nicely with these. We'll have to find the appropriate spot for it. Okay, we can have that in. Maybe let's get a barracks in as well. Why not? Okay, we might need to just finagle these around a little bit, because I do want some walkable pathway to function between these, and we'll segment them off as well with a little bit of fencing and some other little tips and tricks that we can do to make these areas a little bit nicer. So let's bring down this walking pathway. We'll wrap it around sort of our walkable spots. Let's hook it through there. Of course, this whole place will have like a forest boundary and sort of a fence line in as well at some point. So it would be nice to see people sort of walking in and around this place. And hopefully when we come through here... No, that's too tight though. That's fine though. We can do that. So do I appreciate the aesthetic of some wind farms within the farm itself? So I want to start drawing off some roads now, and we'll do this in a couple of different places. We'll try and develop a somewhat organic road network. I don't want lots of rigid frames here. We'll try bring in a few little cul-de-sacs and dead ends if possible. There's a fun little trick you can do in vanilla. I'm not a massive lover of it, but you can put a very kind of short stretch of 4-lane road at the end of a 2-lane to make a cul-de-sac. It's a bit crude for me. I'm not a massive lover of it, but you can do it if you want to. If you have PC, just get node controller. Much easier to do it with that. Cool. Okay, so just some suburban frames. I do want to maximize the space here a little bit, but I'm not worried about filling it all in. And I do want to specifically zone because I don't want the houses right next to each other. Maybe let's leave like a 1-tower gap between each house. Is that going to be an acceptable aesthetic? 4x3s and 3 deeps are all fine here. You're probably going to be a little too close here, right? Yes, you are. Let's not zone up this side then. Even you're probably a little bit too close. Or maybe I just need to move my wind turbines a little bit. They're still going to generate 7 megawatts over here, right? Cool. Yeah, we can have those in then. What's the wind like on the hill? A lot less for some reason. It doesn't really make sense, but okay. That's alright, that's alright. Okay, but these little European suburbia houses are much more delicate, I think is the word to use here. They're really tasteful, really small, and just look a lot more realistic compared to some of the vanilla crap. If we can pick out a bad example of horrible vanilla housing here. Not right, this one. Probably with the original suburb we'll find a minging house. Yes, there you go. So stuff like this right there. The vanilla housing becomes very eccentric and quirky the higher the level it becomes. Which is something I really hope they drop for cities too. I don't like that sort of quirky cartoonish style. But these are much more tasteful, right? They do a much more sensible job in my opinion. Cool, so I just want these to level up around here now in different places. So we just got this little sort of outer lying farm village that has views to the farms. It also has kind of walkability to the farm as well alongside highway access. And that's pretty much it. I don't really want too much else than that. Perhaps a school is probably going to be needed. But then again, we did place a large one last time, so probably not so much. And look at that as well. University education is already nearly halfway down because we built that smaller campus. We'll definitely be able to get another campus type in this city then before it ends, if not all 3. Cool. So these guys don't really want to live over here at the minute because there's nothing out here. So let's give them some quintessential home comforts, such as the dog park. There we go, and in they come. That's all they wanted, right? Who doesn't love dogs? Tremendous. Cool, so let's keep these zonings coming in. We'll of course continue to detail this and refine it during our time-lapse today, but as long as we're coming in now and everyone's pretty happy, I think I am as well. So let's just sort of take an analysis of our sightline now, if we like. So we've got this little farm village developing out here now, and then we come down towards these areas over here. It's just great. I love... This is definitely my favourite sightline of the day, I think. This is probably your thumbnail today. You'll have to let me know if this did end up being the thumbnail. But yes, that stretch of field up to infrastructure is very much what I wanted this farm to look like. And I think we're starting to achieve it, aren't we? Cool. So before we do head into that major detail in time-lapse, someone over here needs a little bit of water. For those that do enjoy the pipes under the roads, now is the time to close your eyes. There we go. Tremendous. So over here, we do have this other little arterial connection that's ready to peel off into the hills, which we will do. And again, future prep here. I can imagine this eventually tailing off through these little foothills and into the mountains over this way. So let's go with that general idea. Let's bring you up this way and we'll stick a roundabout on you for right now. Yes, we will. That's great. And of course, we can have this go off various different directions, factor it into the suburb that I eventually... well, imagine will eventually be developed upon this hill over this side. And then I'd like you to come down here, and then if we can hit a guideline at this point, let's go for there. And then we'll go curve tool, and then hit that guideline and bring it in. And that'll just give us that little bit more interconnectivity between all the road areas. This wants to be sloped out a little bit here, gradient's a little bit severe. But that's not too bad, okay? It's going to be more future prep. We can bring more housing in here now as we get those big housing demands. We've got more of that residential frame to fill out. And I'm really happy with it. So, of course, the sort of big thing missing here would be a unique factory. So the only one that we can supply at the minute, because we don't have the means, and of course we can import the raw resource, but we don't have the means to create plastic and whatnot that all the other factories require. But we do have the furniture factory. So there's 3 things that are guaranteed in life, and that is death, taxes, and me placing the furniture factory against the highway because it's so good. It just works. amazingly well. I realise it's not a farm factory. Of course, our farm factory would be the bakery at level 4, but I'm not moving the bakery from here. This is like perfect placement. I love it positioned against this roundabout here. But I think we can get away with it, right? It's going to provide workplaces. It also gives us that extra infrastructure, and it isn't actually too far out from the forestry area. I think maybe, if anything, it could also be tied into the forestry area by bringing out some frames off of this road here. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we'll wait for that for next episode. Let me know where you guys think the Wood Vision factory should be positioned. I'm keen to have it involved as part of the farm, which we can drop it in eventually, but maybe it deserves to be part of the forestry area. I'm not too sure. I'm quite undecided. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But otherwise, guys, I'm pretty happy with how our farm complex is coming together. This feels like a good point to jump into a detailed time-lapse. So we're going to fill some more space with all of these sort of mock vanilla fields using trees and bushes and fencing and barns and whatnot. I bring in some forest to help bring it in. And then I'd also like more pathways sort of feeding through a little forest line that hugs the road, making people walk into the farm. And then also just refine our little town out here as well with pathways and little bits of detailing. Just to help add that little small centre of population, maybe like a little sort of post office would be nice in here as well, in a small little town like this. Right, little post office and perhaps a couple of diners or a little shop out here for them. Nothing serious, just a very small, rural, outer-lying sort of town that sits here, okay, away from sort of metropolitan Orchid Bay, which is very much developing over this side, over here, alright? Wonderful, but let's detail it up, and then we'll be right back. Okay, everyone, let's have a detailing review, shall we? So, over at our half interchange, of course I can't quite finish it yet, just some simple hedge patterns, and also allow the power line to run parallel with the arterial. Again, as decoration, I want to have power lines running through this more rural part of the map. Then as we head down the road, we arrive at the start of our cycle highway for this section, and we can definitely expand this into a number of locations. And then we have our little town, at least one of two, right? We also brought the bus that was stopping over by the forestry area further down here as well. This does actually head all the way back into the transport hub by the city hall, so public transport is coming out here. And then we got our post office, also specifically zoned some green cities gear up as well, so we get these little markets, and these are present in a number of locations across the farm, so definitely worth sort of factoring in those farm assets into the overall farm itself. And then started to break some of the angles of the fields here, because everything was so rigid to that angle. And then lots of overgrowth in between, fencing, the occasional barn as well. That fire engine's so loud. Oh my god, shut up. Jesus. It's like, we know. You're right there, turn the sirens off. Cool. So yes, then we have some barns and fence detailing around here, overgrowth alongside the fields just to help fill out those spaces. And then indeed just kind of mimicked up and duplicated a lot of our large field patterns, so we get that aesthetic of today's kind of key sightline, which was really about, you know, expanding those sort of large field vibes in different directions. And we can see the houses over here now. It also brought the houses a little bit closer to the field, so we do have some house overlooking field action, which I think is quite a nice aesthetic again to bring into the build over this way. And as we head across the facility, we run into more vanilla plantations, which are just trees and fields and crops and general designs to help keep that farm aesthetic flowing out to where we don't have the actual field assets themselves. And then this little pathway comes around. Now there's some repeated rock assets in here as well, with paths between them, just general space fillers, and then also lost some of the patterns here as well, so there's like a well-trodden path that sort of interrupts the crop plantation here. And then I really like the flour mill, with all these maintenance buildings knocking around as well, which is really cool. And then we arrive at the main building, which of course does continue to change and level up as it goes through its motions. And Francis Farms has hit a level 5 industry already, which is absolutely fantastic. Making a nice tasty profit, employing 1,000 people. It's managed to bring that industrial spike down just a little bit. And yeah, it's a nice little farm area. And oh yes, we also named the village around the farm Fields of Golding after a wonderful patron subscriber Jason, so thank you for your support, mate. Do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy Fields of Golding alongside Francis Farms as well today. Thank you both for the patron support. Then more fencing, more bushes out here next to the main building as everything grows out, and then we just had a little bit more dead space here between farm and arterial road, and I thought this would be an ideal spot for just another little village here again as well. And what we will do is just keep using this European suburbia as these little villages, because there's more fertile land to come out here, so I'm definitely happy to keep expanding the fields and villages out this way. There's no real other plans for it, and there's fertile land here, so we might as well just keep it going. I'm really happy with the inclusion of the wind turbines here as well. Perhaps, you know, the Orchid Bay government kind of rents out that land because it's the windiest spot in the city in order to, you know, perhaps the farmer is given a subsidiary of some kind for allowing some of his land to be used for renewable energy sources, etc. We can pretend if we like, of course. And then this whole area is just really tied together. So don't forget to let me know what you guys should think would happen with the furniture factory. Thinking maybe we'll factor it in here as we come to expand out our area, or do you think we should move it into kind of a much more industrialized part of the map? Let me know what you think should happen with it. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today and our expanded farmland. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. If you have, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Totally different type of farm this to the one that we developed at the start of the series. This is much more open and has that traditional sort of farm feel that you would come to expect from the word farm. But, you know, don't be put off by that. You can create some really cool sort of hydroponics facilities. If you haven't seen Anvaria build on that variation of a farm, please go check it out. It's quite interesting. And lots of assets you can include in here as well, like biodomes and botanical gardens, etc., to give it a different vibe. Please do enjoy your cinematics, but I will shut up and leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.